Yes, literacy in itself is not education. Mahatma Gandhi wrote, by education I mean an all round drawing out of the best in child and man, body, mind, and spirit. Literacy is not the end of education nor even the beginnings, it is only one of the means whereby man and woman can be educated. Literacy in itself is not education. I would therefore begin the child's education by taking it a useful handicrafts and enabling it to produce from the moment it begins its training. I hold that the highest development of the mind and the soul is possible under such a system of education. Only every handicraft has to be taught, not merely mechanically as is done today, but scientifically. The child should know the why and the where of every process. Next is national sentiments spread. Other thinker also began thinking of a system of national education which would be radically different from that set up by the British. Next, Tagore's Abode of Peace. Next, many of you may have heard. Do you know why it was established and by whom? Next, Rabindranath Tagore started the institutions in 1901. As a child, Tagore hated going to school. He found it suffocating and oppressive. The school appeared like a prison, for they could never do what he felt like doing. Next, so while other children listened to the teacher, Tagore's mind would wander away. The experience of his school days in Calcutta shaped Tagore's ideas of education. On growing up, he wanted to set up a school where the child was happy, where she could be free and creative, where she was able to explore her own thoughts and desires. Tagore felt the childhood ought to be a time of self learning outside the rigid and restricting discipline of the schooling system set up by the British. Teachers had to be understand the child and help the child develop her curiosity. According to Tagore, the existing school killed the natural desires of the child to be creative. Her sense of wonder. Next, Tagore was of the view that creative learning could be encouraged only within a natural environment. So he chose to set up his school 100 kilometers away from Calcutta in a rural setting. He was it as an abode of peace where living in harmony with nature, children could cultivate their natural creativity. Next, in many sense, Tagore and Mahatma Gandhi thought about education in similar ways. Next, there were, however, differences too. Next, Gandhiji was highly critical of Western civilization and its worship of machines and technology and mechanic. Tagore wanted to combine elements of modern Western civilization with what he saw as the best within India tradition. Next, he emphasized the need to take science and technology and along with art, music, and dance. Next, many individuals and thinkers were thus thinking about the way a national educational system could be fashioned. Some wanted change within the system set up by the British and felt that the system could be extended so as to include wider sections of people. Others urged that alternative system be created to that people were educated into a culture that was truly national. Who was to define what was truly national? The debate about what this national education ought to be continued till after independence. Next, education as a civilizing mission. Until the introduction of the Education Act in 1870, there was no widespread education for the population as a whole. For most of the 19th century, child labor being widely prevent poor children could not be sent to school for their earning was critical for the survival of the family. Next, the number of schools was also limited to those run by the church or set up by wealthy individuals. Next, it was only after the coming into force of the Education Act that schools were opened by the government and compulsory schooling was introduced. Next, one of the most important educational thinkers of the period was Thomas Arnold, who became the headmaster of the private school Rugby, favoring a secondary school curriculum was had a detailed study of the Greek and Roman classic written 2000 years earlier. He said next, it has always seemed to me one of the great advantages of the courage of study generated pursued in our English schools that it draws our mind to continuously to dwell upon the past. Every day we are engaged in studying the language, the history, and the thoughts of men who lived nearby or more than 2000 years ago. Next, Arnold felt that a study of the classic disciplined the mind. In fact, most educators of the time believed that such a discipline was necessary. Become young people were naturally savage and needed to be controlled to become civilized adults. They needed to understand societies, nations of right and wrong, proper and improper behavior. Education, especially one which disciplined their minds, was meant to guide them on this path. Can you suggest how such ideas might have influenced thinkings about education of the poor in England and of the natives in the colonized stuff?